Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Huddle, where we all have a bit of a State of the Union hangover this morning. Red eyes, groggy heads, lots of coffee this morning from being up at the crack of dawn. Well, before dawn. After being up late for our State of the Union special. And thanks for all of you who joined us last night. We had some great numbers. But we're going to have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about this incredible nearly 2-hour speech that the president put on for the State of the Union last night. We'll talk about his performance, the substance, and what's next, but especially, will it make a difference, or are the midterms sort of already baked? We're also going to go through some new polling on Iran after this high-level briefing that top lawmakers received yesterday. We'll talk about the DOD versus Mark Kelly 2.0 as Hegseth appeals this court ruling on Mark Kelly as he tries to go after him for that video he made with a few other Democrats. We'll talk about these main Senate numbers, which are frankly crazy, showing what the Senate race is looking like right now. And we'll talk about Mamdani stepping in it once again with the NYPD. But first, guys, question: how many cups of coffee have you drank this morning?
We are actually mixing coffee and espresso. 2 cups of coffee and 3 espressos right now. So,
Sean?
Yeah. Well, you heard my plight yesterday. So I went out and did the cheap thing. I went to the CVS down the strip, bought some of this iced coffee, put it on ice last night, and I've been just pouring it. So I didn't even go for the hotel stuff. But I revised last night my remarks. I said I'd be cranky today, which I probably will be, but it'll be after the show. Tomorrow is going to be the killer day. 3 days in a row, getting up at 4 a.m. To do this. Whew. I think will take its toll, but
welcome to my world.
And then you still have like Thursday and Friday to go before you.
Yeah, and it's a 5-hour. I'm flying home in a little bit, and it's a 5-hour flight. So
should we just say now loser of the week, Sean Spicer? Just get it out of the way.
No. Let me just tell you, I have like this little. I've been writing like I have losers of the week. I'm pissed at everybody right now.
Well, that'll be a fun segment. I have to say, I put on my pants inside out today, and I didn't even bother fixing them. And then I lost my phone at some point this morning, though my husband just found it and brought it in. So I'm with you there. Exhaustion, but we will get through this. It's going to be a really fun show. Let's look at the day book first. Democrats this morning are headed up the Potomac to Leesburg, Virginia today for their annual 3-day retreat. Probably going to be licking their wounds a little bit after yesterday. Oh, Dan,
I don't think so. No, they're not.
Well, here's the thing. All those counter programming State of the Unions obviously didn't get much attention, and the president. Well, maybe that's a good thing for them, right? And obviously the president had the bully pulpit last night. So there's only so much you can do to respond. Kamala Harris will be on a podcast with Aaron Parnas, the independent media podcaster. We'll be keeping an eye on that. At 9 a.m., the president has executive time. I'm sure he's going to be watching all the coverage this morning.
I was just going to say,
often does.
Sean, why doesn't he just say, I will try to set the tone and react to the coverage in the morning. Period. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah, gives a little flexibility.
Yeah, media time, not policy time. Yep.
At 10 o'clock, Casey Means has Senate confirmation for before the Help Committee to be Surgeon General. At 11, the president has a policy meeting. At 3 p.m., he participates in a meeting with Secretary of Transportation. And then at 4:30, he has another policy meeting. So before we jump in, let's do a quick word about Cozy Earth, our sponsor.
Yeah, so if you follow me on X or Instagram, you know I am wearing Cozy Earth pajamas this morning. As soon as we got off air last night, went upstairs, put on my Cozy Earth pajamas, got under the bubble blanket, because I don't know about you two, but after a night like that, I can't just fall asleep. My mind is wired. Takes a little while. Yep, poured a scotch, just licked my wounds because my Knicks got their butt kicked, but enjoyed my Cozy Earth pajamas. I should have lit a candle. That might have helped to kind of relax me a little bit, but instead scotch did the trick. But I have them on today. They are the absolute best. And when you're just looking to kind of lie around a little, they are perfect. Go to cozyearth.com. Use our code HUDDLE for up to 20% off cozyearth.com.
I'm glad you said that, Dan. I will tell you, last night I watched a little bit of the response from I could not go to sleep. Like mind was wired. I think that's the difference between watching a game and a speech, is that you watch a game, it's kind of like, you're enjoying it. Last night, your head is like, you're trying to write down the responses. I wanted to make sure I made some notes for this morning. I could not go to sleep. I was, and I also think I'm now like the Chamber of Commerce's worst enemy in Vegas, because I'm the only person who's come to Vegas and hasn't had a drink or gambled once. So I think like
it's not just not go to bed. My other problem is I am addicted to just watching the responses, both on TV, on X. And it's like every time you're ready to put it down, you're like, "Ooh, that's a good one. Oh, look at this."
That's what I mean, though. You can't stop. You just, I was
exactly.
like, because the difference when you want to go to sleep, your brain needs to quiet down.
Right.
And last night, I was thinking, okay, that response, this thing, this is the comment, that was, and I wanted to make sure I made notes of all of these things, or tweet them. Or
all right. Sean's got notes. Look out, everybody.
It's a good segue to pull out your notes.
Those are pages. Plural. All right, here we go.
There's also like what's it? Jerry Maguire said it's not a memo. It's a Jerry Maguire. What did he say? It's not.
Show me the
it's
money.
A mission statement. It's a mission statement.
There you go. Well, good segue to jumping into our conversation. Let's start by unpacking the show and the performance itself. I mean, Sean said it yesterday. The commander-in-chief. This is the showman in chief, and we saw it last night. The awards, Purple Hearts for the National Guards members who were shot here while serving here in Washington, D.C., the Congressional Medal of this or that for all these heroes, people who saved young girls, veterans who served our country. There was
just time out real quick. The Medal of Honor is for service members. The Medal of Freedom is for civilians. So,
all right, hold on.
She's we're
halfway through the recognitions.
No,
keep
going, tons of recognitions. I lost track of them. You had a moment where there was the president was honoring the hero from the Maduro capture, or one of them who was steering the helicopter. We had a freed Venezuelan political prisoner uniting with a beloved niece who is in the audience. Recognition for the mom of the slain Ukrainian refugee who was brutally murdered, and that video went viral from Charlotte. Let's just start there.
Oh, the USA hockey team. Don't forget the USA hockey team. Which Sean Spicer was the first to suggest may march in. Yep.
And I mean, even often the media that is skeptical of the president was saying this was an incredible show. Let's bring up this clip of Major Garrett talking about this performance before I go to you, Dan, here on this.
Major here at the table. I want to bring the conversation back here to our group watching along. Major, you've seen a lot of these, I think, more than any of us. What stood out to you?
Well, look, before the speech, many Republicans said one of the priorities for the president was to make sure Americans after this speech had a sense that the opposition party was off the rails, was crazy, their terminology, not mine. Many of the contrasts the president articulated tonight were to drive that message forward. That not only do I disagree with the opposition party sitting before me in Congress, but I disagree with them so strongly, and they with me so much, that they can't even applaud basic common sense thing. And that line that you mentioned, that he added to the speech, whether it was ad-libbed or not, the first obligation, American citizens versus illegal aliens, was meant to create a visual moment of perpetual contrast.
Let's actually bring up that clip he's talking about right there, because we have that one as well. This was probably the most viral moment of the night. Let's play it.
So tonight I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
There wasn't a single Dem that stood.
Nope.
Not a single Dem on that. Wow. All right, let's jump out of that. Dan, you have to admit it was a good show as a Democrat.
I think I said this last night. I think you got to grade it in two ways. If you look at it as a show, it was a shock and awe. right? It was one after the other. Look at how many you just mentioned. Your newsletter did the same thing, right? Just so many kind of amazingly well-produced moments. I think Sean, I think you said it. The doors on the balcony were like a, rotating, who's next? Like, I got to see this. I think that it was so long. There was so much. And I always try to center myself with these speeches to say, who's the intended audience? Who is their political problem? We all agree they have huge political problems and they've lost voters. And what are the issues those people care about, right? So, Rachel, I went through all the local press this morning, okay? Of everything you just mentioned, USA Hockey was in most, and the Charlotte Observer had the Ukrainian woman, right? Everything else was maybe one of the ones you mentioned or another one. When I was on on X last night, right, I was watching the administration, what they were putting out, and the influencers. At first, it was all over the place. Then as you say, Sean, the funnel narrowed towards immigration, which tells me that if they were writing that speech, what did they want out of it? I hear Major Garrett, they wanted to draw this contrast. Mm-hmm. The problem is, I didn't see a single story, mainstream or local media, that talked about the prescription drug plan. The IVF moment, I think, was the one that you might see in November, but the tree fell and I think nobody heard it. It is those voters, it is the economy, inflation, cost of living. They think he's extreme and chaotic. What is the one issue that's going viral? Immigration. You know what Democrats are going to say? We'll put the images out of Minnesota against your line. And they think they're going to win that contrast. So I don't think he helped himself. I think the base loved it. And I think the average voter sits there and just thinks, what was in that for me?
Sean, you
So
sure.
let me, no, well, I'll actually bridge this for a second. And because I'll be consistent. I said this last year or 2 years ago when Biden gave his, I'll say it. It's a speech. Like, let's remember what it is, okay? It was a great show. This guy hit it out of the park. It was phenomenal. Trump does this better than anybody. The use of the door, I was texting you guys last night. Normally, everyone sits in the balcony and you say, sitting in the balcony with the first lady tonight is so-and-so, and they did such and such and blah, blah, blah. By using the hallway, if you will, to bring people in, coming in right now is so-and-so, he was able to maximize the number of people, the number of events that he highlighted. I thought it was phenomenal. I mean, like, and somebody, kudos to the team.
Which of those, Sean, were your top two? Or even your number one?
Well, see, this is the thing, but here's my point. But Dan, this is like, look, when you go somewhere, you go to a restaurant, you go to an amusement park, you go wherever, and someone says, what's your favorite one? And you go, you know what? I love the whole thing. Like, it's actually, in my opinion, the idea that I have to struggle to think what was of all of the great things. Sometimes in a speech, you're trying to think, is there anything that it's the takeaway? This time, I'm like, yeah, I thought the substance was great. He talked about the Trump accounts. He talked about Trump RX. He talked about.
Have you seen the Trump accounts in a single press story today?
But my point is that. Well, yeah, but hold on, time out. But again, what I'm trying to emphasize at the top is to say this. This was the big picture thing, right? This was for the millions of people who work every single day, who get home, who are worried about their kids, taking care of the house, maybe a hobby, whatever. He laid out all the stuff that he's done in the first 365 days as president of the United States and gotten done. Many things that got buried. And so maybe you're right that but last night was a touchstone. I didn't know about Trump accounts. I'm going to go look them up. I never knew about this IVF thing. I'm going to go look it up. I didn't realize that Trump RX covered all of these drugs. I'm going to look it all up. But he basically gave people a blueprint of all of the things that have happened, all of the stuff that's been accomplished. I thought it was beautiful. And it laid out a bunch of things that every member of Congress on the right can go do this. He drew the contrast phenomenally. But like, again, I want to be clear that this was a speech. And the idea that everybody's like, what effect will this have on the midterms? If you think that any speech will ever have an effect on the midterms, then you're in the wrong business. This is a speech. And I think I read so many stories this morning about the effect it was going to have. And I'm like, you are a moron if you think that any speech ever has an effect on the midterms.
Well, of course people are going to be asking that. But wait, I want to go back to, Sean, you started to transition into the substance of the speech. The president made a ton of sort of policy pitches last night, banning states from allowing undocumented to get commercial driver's license. There's that story of the young girl who was expected never to eat, to walk, to talk after she was hit by an undocumented immigrant who was driving some sort of huge load of something. And there she was, her dad holding her up proudly in the first grade.
She was on Fox this morning.
Yep. There was the promise to keep repeat offenders locked up when he was talking about the murder of the Ukrainian refugee. There was the ban on institutional investors from buying single family homes, passing a healthcare bill prohibiting stock trading, stock trades on insider information for lawmakers, codifying the most favored nation's drug policies. Sean, with the exception of the stock trading one, I'm not sure a single one of these will go anywhere in this Congress, but the White House knows that, right? Like, that's not the point. What is
right? I mean, so
point is what?
Again, so first of all, the stock trading one's not going anywhere either. I mean, just to be clear, you think members are going to block themselves from making all this money? I mean, they're going to do.
It's getting support, more support by the day.
Well, you know what the problem is? They want to put the executive branch in it, and Trump said absolutely not.
Well, no, they want to. The executive branch is in it. They want to put the president in it. That's the difference. Okay.
I mean,
But here's the issue. I'll just real briefly on the Stock Act. What they're going to do is the same thing that they did in 1994 with term limits. They'll have 4 versions of it. So back in the day in the Contract with America, we had 4 years. I think it was 8 years and 12 years. So everyone got to vote for something and nothing passed. The Stock Act has like 4 or 5 versions, depending on what it includes, how many family members are included. It's not going to pass. And because members aren't going to do this, they anyway.
Okay.
That being said, the goal last night was to send a message. Here's what I've done. Here's what I want to do for you. Again, it's a speech. It's like last night was, here's what I want to do if you elect us. Here are the priorities that we have. This is when a storm happens. Every member of Congress writes a letter to FEMA saying, my district just got hit with a storm. I want you. Do you really think FEMA didn't know that there was a storm in North Carolina or Kentucky and a member of Congress needed to flag them? It's showing action. It's letting the member of Congress say, I wrote FEMA earlier this morning and told them you need to give us an emergency declaration and the funding that we need. The president last night laid out an agenda and said, this is what our side is for. This is what their side is for or against. That was the brilliance of it. It's not about what's going to pass or what's not. That's not, I mean, in a perfect
here's
world,
the beauty of what Sean just said, because this is, again, last night, couldn't go to sleep. Go look at all the major Republicans in Congress who are up for re-election and go look at the Republican leadership's X account and look at what they posted. And look at what Sean and Rachel just talked about. It's like they're alternate universes.
What were they posting, Sean?
No Republican was talking about all of Trump's new programs that he put on the board, which we've said none of them want to touch this stuff. They all focused on a little check the box of wages are up, inflation's coming down, right? So the messaging, again, I go to this. Immigration is taking off today. Members of Congress who are running, who have polling, who are focused on a laser beam, didn't touch 99.9% of Trump's speech in any of their communication going out last night. Now, today, I'm sure they're going to pick up on immigration because the influencer crowd is all over it. But Sean, you and I always say this, when a good speech, a good campaign, a good operation, everyone's off the same hymnal, everyone has their takeaways, and everyone's driving straight. And on our side, the beauty is the crazies didn't make the news. Now, to me, that's victory. The good news is I actually thought Spanberger did a good job. And I want to bring this up because the coverage she's gotten, not a lot, and Sean, you always say this, you never do when you're giving the rebuttal, is the 3 questions she put out there, right? She kept it short. She kept it simple. It was basically, are you better off than you were a year ago? You know, do you feel safer? Is the world more secure? Now, you know, to the right, it's like, you know, amen for Donald Trump. But look at every piece of data out there and it says that's not how voters feel. So her message got in every single press story. 1, 2, 3, bam, 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 neat and tight. Republicans are scattershot. I mean, I'm just.
They were,
her
response wasn't.
I'm happy to say when he does a good job. I'm also willing to say when I think he missed the mark.
But wait, was her response really in every press story? Because like
everyone that included the response.
I don't think many people were paying attention. That's the thing.
No, I hear you. But my point, Rachel, about message discipline is when her speech is included, right? You had the takeaway. If Sean and I know, if you write a press release, your boss will say, what is the one sentence that if they're going to clip out, we want to make sure is in every press story? I can't answer that for Trump. I can sure answer it for Spanberger, and every Democrat will sing that song today. Now, no one may hear it, but that to me that's discipline, and that's driving something. And Republicans, listen to you two. You listed 1,000 things.
Yeah, all great things.
But that's
so the base hears it. The base hears it and says,
but here's the
every
thing.
one of those.
Can I list? Go ahead, Sean, really quickly.
No, I just say that there's two takeaways. As I said, one thing last night was that because this administration operates, as Peter Navarro likes to say, in Trump time, which is it's fast, fast, fast. Part of this is to slow down and to last night make sure that every American understood what was accomplished, right? You can always go back and sell more. You can. Last night to me was the idea of making sure people who didn't hear about a lot of the accomplishments got the Cliff Note version, and they got it. The second thing is, look, I've said this all along, and I'll at least agree with you on this piece. If you fundamentally in July and August of this coming year cannot answer the question, are you better off, like personally, we're screwed as Republicans. I believe that people will answer that question in the affirmative. They will say all of the policies have helped us for a myriad of reasons, right? But so Spanberger, yeah, I think that was the case to lay out. But at the end of the day, I actually don't agree. Right. I don't disagree. If you guys, we bet all the chips on that. You guys pushed all the chips on that, and we all have said the economy, how it's doing, is where we want to bet. I believe we will be right on this. Obviously, your side does as well, but this is the game, and that's it.
I just want to list a couple of other reasons why I thought the president's speech was a success that haven't gotten as much attention. It's about what he didn't do, right? There was some talk about, would he heckle or go after the justices in front of him? He was the bigger person in this speech. He didn't do that. He shook their hands when he walked in. There was concern among some Republicans about a mission accomplished moment on affordability. We didn't see that. In fact, he said something like, there was a line that was like, you ain't seen nothing yet, suggesting that they're going to continue to work on this issue that is very important to voters.
He said, hold on a little while.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that is exactly the nuance that the White House wants him to strike. He also didn't throw.
But let me ask you, did that make a single story you've seen?
I was in my story.
Well,
good reporters pick up the right stuff, right?
Other than right, but that's my but that's my point. It didn't make anything.
There was concern about that, though. And the other thing he didn't do is he didn't throw, with the exception of the codify most favored nations, which is something that, a lot of Republicans do not support. He didn't throw them under the bus. I didn't hear a single thing about credit card swipe fees, which is something that I was wondering, was he going to lean into them and sort of goad his own party to pass these democratic ideas? He didn't do that. And then one other thing on the contrast here, because I agree with Sean. I think the contrast of, okay, we have work to do, but do you really want this party in power? I thought that was really strong. And it wasn't just the immigration piece. It was also, the anecdote of, the young girl who was taken away by the court because her family wouldn't recognize her as a boy. That just reminded me.
I was surprised, by the way, that came up.
And then when it came to the Ukrainian refugee, in that moment when the mother was literally crying and Democrats, didn't stand to applaud on that, that was just I don't know. I was shocked on that. And then the president really leaned in and said, why are you not applauding? This woman is in the balcony crying. Her daughter was brutally murdered and you guys are not standing for that. I thought that was a powerful moment.
I think I will say this, and I saw it in real time when Trump talked about the baby being snatched. The left went nuts about babies being snatched with immigration raids, right? I know, Sean, you roll your eyes, but you got to remember,
no.
Our side talks to our side, your side talks to your side. I think the other issue that he had last night is, and even some Republicans said this, when he starts talking about Democrats hate people, they hate this country, they hate this. The swing voters do not like that side of him. And I know, look, our side didn't do themselves any favor. I agree with you, Rachel. I think not standing for some of those will wind up in TV ads. Maybe by the time we get off the air, they'll be on, digital ads that'll ricochet around to try to build momentum. But I also thought Trump on immigration and crime got hot. At times, I thought he was almost a little flat last night, but he got hot. And I know the Republicans love it. Democrats hate it. Swing voters don't like that side of them.
Can I ask you? I just want to ask a very
Yeah.
simple question, and I'm serious when I say this because we both come at this, Dan, from very different perspectives, right? So I want to just literally play this out for a second. Like, we're at the water cooler this morning at work, we're getting coffee, and you say, "What do you think of the State of the Union last night?" And I say, "I thought President Trump hit a home run. I think that was one of the best speeches he's given." Gosh, Dan, I thought the Democrats looked like it was like the contrast. He got what he wanted, right? In my opinion,
Yep.
I thought the Democrats fit, like, it was a great contrast. The question I have for you is, how would you answer that question at the water cooler right now? Would you say, "Hey, I'm proud that we showed resistance. Like, my side, it was," to your point about the contrast.
Yep.
Did you guys like that, or do you think he got the better of you guys last night?
I think that it's such a polarized country, and I'm going to grade this on a curve, which is they didn't stand, but they also didn't kind of, go crazy the way they did last year with paddles. There was one kind of moment, primarily on immigration, Somalia, where there was a little bit of a back and forth and they were shouting at each other. Sean, I think there's two fundamental questions for November. One, you keep saying this, is the economy. Do people feel better about the economy? But the second one that I think is going to be equally as huge is who is viewed as more extreme, right? Is Trump viewed as extreme with Iran and Greenland and Venezuela and Minnesota and kind of whatever else he has up his sleeve going forward, because it's shock and all 24/7? Or are we viewed as extreme of they're going to reopen the border, they're going to, bring back DEI? Like, who can paint the other as more extreme? Right now, Trump is viewed as more extreme. I will be curious to see how many Republicans rally around that message, because as of last night and this morning, they're not rallying around that message running in races. They're just not.
I think, look, I disagree with the analysis there, but I think you're right in the sense that this is going to be all elections are a choice. And there's two issues here, right? One, to your point, how do we play? Who's crazier? The other is who doesn't get motivated. And that's the thing, is that right now, it's not just, do you actually think the other side sucks? It's, are you motivated to go up for your side? And part of the
and that's where Trump hit a home run, I think. He motivated, and that's what I said yesterday. Is it to the middle or to the base? And what I heard last night was that was a speech to the base, and that's why they laundry listed it. Let me remind you guys of every single thing we've done. Every single thing we've done. And the base went, looking at X, they're also up and down.
But let me just put a pin in this.
The base doesn't win the elections.
You hit this, though. It was also, and here's what they'll do. These guys are, quote, crazy. If you don't go out and vote, the crazies take over.
And one of us said 6 months ago, they're going to say Democrats will reopen the border. And if Democrats don't answer that question, they're going to have to say, no, we won't. They're going to have to.
I want to move to very quickly what's next, but just a quick point. I mean, you talk about swing voters and thinking the president was angry and showed an extreme side. I really didn't get that. Like, I just felt like on moments he leaned in, a lot of these things were sort of common sense. And
I don't think most people think
Democrats
hate the country.
I think the challenge for the president is some of those moments when he did lean in, repeat offenders, immigration. Like I said last night, those are no longer the things that are motivating voters to show up, right? They feel like they've been checked the box. Republicans have gone a little too far on them, and they're more worried about the affordability issue. So, like, I think for me, the question wasn't, I didn't watch it and say, okay, the president is too extreme here, it's going to turn off voters. It was more like, yes, there's a lot of accomplishments here. Yes, there's a lot of contrast here. But what is it that voters are motivated by right now? So
I mean, anyway, that you just answered my question.
Yeah, sure. It's a fair point. It's totally a fair point. Let's talk about very quickly what's next. I mean, the president, Susie Wiles, has said that the president's going to be going out across the country.
Going to Texas, I think.
Yeah. Oh, is that he's going to Texas? Okay.
Yep, I think tomorrow. Okay. Yep.
Okay, very good. What about on the Dem side, Dan? What are Dems going to do to, or maybe you think they really don't have to recapture the narrative, because you're saying you think that, how it played last night is good for Dems.
Look, I think, and I said this yesterday, victory for Democrats would not really be in the news. And as a rule, they basically, I hear you on the immigration issue, and that one they're going to have to see that again here in the future. But I think if you're Democrats, you look at everything we just talked about. And Rachel, you said, what do the voters care about? Affordability. Look at everything else we're talking about, right? So Democrats think, great, this morning we're waking up, affordability is still going to poll as number one. He still has a problem with Latinos. He still has a problem with suburb, like all the things. And they say, we live to fight another day. Yeah. And we move on.
Sean, what's next?
That's the key question. What you are asking right now is what matters the most.
Yep.
So I said, you guys have heard me. This was a speech. Okay. Yep. What do you do now? If you just let that speech happen and then this morning you move on, then it's all for naught. Do you get a ton of surrogates fanning across the country? Do you get the cabinet to go out? Scott Bassett does 5 events in swing districts about the Trump accounts. Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Oz, Jay Bhattacharya and Marty McCary go out and do an event on. If you don't sell what you did last night, it's a tactic, not a strategy. So look, part of last night, and the same thing, by the way, for the Dems. They want to, if the response last night, yes, it fell flat, but you can take the Abigail Spanberger message or whichever one that you want. If you don't go out and sell this right now, it was a one-night speech. So what you're asking, Rachel, matters. I'm constantly frustrated by Republicans who are like, what are we going to do now? As if they're just bystanders in the political process. Like Republicans on the House and Senate side, the Dems went off to Leesburg to have their retreat this morning. Republicans should say, guys, every one of you needs to do 5 things to get the message out last night.
Whatever you Republicans are in Florida this weekend to talk about this. They're all going to be down at Doral this weekend. Yeah, so if you're in Miami,
but the key in all of this is if you don't go sell it, it dies. And that's what both sides need to emphasize. If you just don't pick the 5 things that you liked last night as a Republican member of Congress and go out and sell those 5 things.
Well, that's why I say, and tomorrow we'll have it as a topic, I think. What are all the members of Congress in tough races on the R side and the D side saying by the end of today? And that will tell you if there is discipline, and to Sean's point, a torch is being carried, or if it's just a scatter shot of, stray bullets.
Let's move on, guys, to Congress in Iran. So the Gang of 8 briefed the Gang of 8 received a briefing from Rubio, and there was somebody else from the cabinet.
John Ratcliffe, the CIA director.
Right, that's right. We didn't hear much about what was said. Obviously, it was top secret, classified. But Dems did emerge saying that the White House has not made the case, and they sounded a little cryptic here. Jim Himes, who is the ranking Democrat on Intel in the House, he said, "I'm very concerned. Wars in the Middle East don't go well for presidents, for the country, and we have not heard articulated a single good reason for why now is the moment to launch another strike." Schumer said, "Look, what I saw was serious, and the administration has to make the case to the people." Meanwhile, there's new CBS polling. Let's pull that up right now. If we have it here. Okay, yes. So 47% said they would favor U.S. military action against Iran. 53% would oppose. Sean, how much? I mean, does the White House even look at numbers like this as they're considering like a huge national security issue, or can they really not do that at this point? How much do the politics play into this decision about whether to go after Iran?
I mean, there's always something in the back of your head. I mean, you don't say it in the sitting room, like, when you're going around the course of action, like, Mr. President, by the way, this is not, I mean, but yes,
well.
those are
the numbers in Pennsylvania.
Those are the one-off conversations that you have when you're, in the Oval or off in the private. You say, Mr. President, by the way, I just want you to make sure as you're considering this, this is where the American people are. This is one of the things that's polling well. This thing gets killed. If we do this, we're going to want to emphasize this, not that. But obviously that's why you have the communicators in the room. It's not because they're interested in your strategy, but I think whether, I sat in several classified briefings, not because they needed me to sign off on the actual strategy to do this or that, but more because they needed to say, how's the public going to perceive this action that we might have to take? Or what do we need to communicate when we say this? And so, yeah, it's a consideration. Of course it is. I don't think it's what drives him. But I also think that it's definitely something that they go, okay, if we do this, we're going to have to sell this. I mean, Dan and I talked about this the other day. This would be something that if you're going to do it, I would say I'd put an Oval Office address together to make sure that you're explaining, here's why I'm doing it. Here's the limited nature potentially, or whatever it is, so that people know exactly what's happening. Or otherwise, you you're going to have a lot of questions.
And that's the problem, was that last night he basically said he again said we obliterated their nuclear program, which is just not true. And one of the reasons we may be going back in is we did not. And I think the other problem on our side now is you now have this story that appeared that Democratic leadership is working behind the scenes to not allow a vote. There's a movement by Ro Khanna and Tom Massey to have a war powers, vote on Iran.
Right.
And I have a guess why Chuck Schumer doesn't want that vote. Some of that is his own politics with the Israeli community or the Jewish community here in New York. But the Democratic base went ballistic yesterday afternoon about how can you guys sit there and try to kill this to not go on the record. And for a lot of Democrats who have been there forever with the gray hair, you remember the Iraq War. It ended up kind of changing the career trajectory of some Democrats because they voted for it and the war went south. So this is like a story that as we talk about Iran, we talk about, something that may be imminent. The fact that Democratic leadership kind of doesn't want to have to say where they stand. This is just another instance of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries being totally misaligned with the base of the party.
Do you think they'll be successful in keeping it from coming up, Dan? I mean, Hakeem Jeffries not exactly known for wielding an iron fist. I mean, you saw it last night with Democrats heckling the president, even though he said not to. But I mean, do you think he'll be successful in tamping this down, or it's
no, I don't. And I think what's going to happen is reporters are now going to say to you can have to formally answer it or informally answer it. Mm-hmm. But this goes to the AIPAC question in all of these races. This goes to all the primaries that are about to start here or continue here starting next week. But think about Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico. If this issue comes up, do you support going to war with Iran? I think I know where Jasmine Crockett stands. Yeah. I don't know where James Tallarico stands.
Let's we've got a lot more topics to get through. Let's move on to the Department of War versus Mark Kelly 2.0. So Hegseth is appealing this judge's order that blocks him from punishing Kelly for participating in that video where he called on troops to ignore unlawful orders. Sean, look, I get why they're doing this. The base loves this. It kind of gets to the point we were talking to with the State of the Union. But at some point, do you think they should just let this go? I mean, it is making Mark Kelly this superstar on the left. There's questions about whether it will be successful. Is it worth the fight?
You guys heard me say this ad nauseum, politics versus the policy, right? On the politics, you're right. I think it's elevated Kelly in a way that he's taken advantage of. On the policy part of it, I mean, fundamentally, there is a problem with the civilian court not following the process. I mean, this is a UCMJ issue, Uniform Code of Military Justice issue, and Kelly is subject as a retiree, as a active retiree, to abide by it. To have a civilian judge come in and jump the system and rule, I think sets a bad precedent for going forward to say you don't have to follow UCMJ. The way the system works, and I've said this before, is you have to exhaust. If this is anyone else, you would follow all of your UCMJ, and then at the end of that, the civilian court gets a bite at the apple, but not until that process has been exhausted. And I think at the very least, to make sure that the Department of War preserves that process is important, because going forward, you've now undermined how the system works. Otherwise, why even have a UCMJ? And so there's the politics piece of this, which I think probably right now favor Kelly. The policy part of it, I think if you, regardless of where you come down on this, the idea that somebody could jump the system is not a good thing going forward.
Dan, you're smiling. Democrats welcome this, huh?
Yeah, just thank you, sir. May I have another? It's one of the dumber things I've seen an administration do. And oh, by the way, Jeanine Pirro dropped the charges against the other 6 and let it go.
But just to be clear, but Dan, and again, this goes,
Sean, the politics of this are horrific.
Right. Horrific. But remember, Jeanine Pirro was dealing with the civilian side. None of those people. Mark Kelly's the only one that is in that status.
So when he's defeated in another court, your base is going to be demoralized, and our base is going to be running through over hot coals.
Let's go to Maine, because there are some crazy numbers from up north. New polling finding that progressive candidate Graham Planter, a 41-year-old oyster farmer, would beat Senator Susan Collins 49% to 38% in a hypothetical matchup. That's according to a poll out of University of New Hampshire. I think we have that. Let's bring that up right here.
I think
in
we have
contrast-
poly markets, which
the poly markets one. Okay.
Look at
Okay,
the
I'll get to
jump.
that in one second.
Look at
But just to contrast that, this polling shows that Governor Janet Mills in a head-to-head would only beat Collins by 1 point. Dan, you have been like gushing about these numbers, like just totally like surprised, would you say, or just like?
No,
clearly
well, I mean,
surprised?
the 30-point lead over the governor. I mean, look, there are some people who say the sample size doesn't quite have it isn't quite representative of the state in that it might underrepresent older voters. Okay. But I said this at the time, which was when it basically was the DSCC dropped all the oppo on Plattner and he remained at around 40%. I was like, ooh, that is interesting, right? You've thrown the kitchen sink at him and he did not die. And it can make you stronger, which is what we've seen with Trump over the last like 12 years. I do think there is something going on in that state and across the country where these kind of institutional candidates, right? They're out of central casting, the DSCC approves, they've got the track record and the experience. Somebody who is real, who's got kind of scars on them, literally and figuratively, who speaks in English, who can connect with people, is much more successful. I've said this for a while. I think Plattner's going to win that primary. I was curious about the general. That tells me maybe not a 10-point lead, but do I think he may have a 2 or 3 point or even tied at this point? Given all the momentum the party has, Susan Collins, I think, needs to be up. Like,
let's bring up that poly market. Sorry, here it is.
Look at that.
There it is.
I mean, but you see the spike for both. Like Plattner jumps big, she falls big. I mean, I think that tells you a lot of where things are.
And you know what? Here's the worry I'd have if you're the DSCC. Watch senators start to endorse Plattner. People want to be with the winner. They want to be with the cool kid for their fundraising, to have them come to their district. The problem for Janet Mills is who is going to rescue her?
The momentum begets momentum. But this is just so fascinating to me because once upon a time in these sorts of races, Republicans would rather run against the more extreme candidate, right? But the way the base is right now, Democratic base, I mean, they're just, their heart is with progressives and the far left,
it's
right,
not
Sean?
Just the base in Maine. That's the fascinating thing. It's not. And it's like Trump. When Republicans say or Democrats say, how the hell can, independents and swing voters in 16 and, a lot in 20 and in 24 were with Trump with all his flaws. This is our kind of miniature version of Trump. All the flaws, but people hear what they want to hear and they focus on what they want to focus on. And they don't care if he has a Nazi tattoo or whatever. It's like, what are you doing for me on these issues?
Sean, but can you just like comment on like how totally flipped that is? Because it used to be like Republicans would be like, yeah, I would love to run against somebody who's like AOC. Absolutely. I'll defeat him. And now it's like, oh, they're with the energy's there. So like, that's no longer the case.
Look, I mean, let's just be clear, like where you are. Maine, obviously, Susan Collins is the only person that can hold that seat for Republicans. So, I mean, just to be clear, if you look at the state who they've elected, I mean, this is not Kansas or, North Carolina. If this was North Carolina, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It would be over. I think to Dan's point, I mean, what this says isn't so much about Maine, is where the Democratic Party is nationally. Graham Plattner is a proxy for the progressive wing right now, and he will win that primary. And this really says that the establishment is screwed. Republicans went through this moment themselves where, I mean, I remember back in the day, my first campaign, 1994, we ran on like bipartisanship and working hard across aisles and, what we would fight for with the leadership. And now you say the exact opposite. I would never care what leadership said. I would never work with the other party. I mean, we have had a monumental shift in our politics and how we view primaries and then generals. But like Plattner's going to win. Susan Collins was down, I think, 7 or 8 points the final week last time, and she still came out well ahead. So the one thing about Susan that I think is, Maine is obviously a very small state population wise. She's been elected for decades, very strong connection to voters. I've been up there and did a dinner with her probably 9 months ago. Very, very, I mean, she is, for a woman that's been in office as long as she has, very connected to the grassroots, very, makes her way around all the dinners and the events in the state. And so I still put my money on Susan Collins.
Do you know what I'd be worried about, Sean? Because to your point, she always kind of pulls it out. What has always been the tactic she uses to pull it out at the end? Oppo research. I don't know. I mean, Plattner, you're dropping everything on him. Like I'll be curious. That's always been her thing. 2
Right,
weeks
but
out,
remember,
she's
Dan.
had a nugget.
But what right now you mentioned this, right? They dropped all this stuff about his Nazi tattoo and all this stuff, and but that's just among primary voters. So the big question is, in Maine, you're going to have a big swath of independents. The question is, did they get offended by that, and did they get put off by a lot of? Well, no, you don't know that because right now you're not
polling.
Right. But this is not a live ball to poll a primary, but before a primary happens, it's a later primary. All New England primaries are a little later. So the question
is, you think they haven't heard it yet? You think no, middle is not heard all it?
No, I think there's a big difference between getting it sprinkled by a bunch of Dem Oppo folks versus having 2,000 points dropped on your head, which is that Glenn Prattner and Hitler are hanging out. I mean, like, it's a very different attack.
Trump,
this
Plattner,
right now,
Hitler walk into a bar. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. We've got some great questions in the chat about the State of the Union. But before that, let's talk about this snowball fight in New York City, and the mayor now at odds with his police department. So Mamdani is now under fire for diminishing these injuries from these police officers who were attacked after they were being called in to break up a snowball fight. It actually got really bad. Apparently, people were throwing chunks of ice and rocks. 2 police officers were landed in the hospital from head and face injuries. But Mamdani, his response to this, he was asked if people should be charged with assaulting a police officer. He said no. And then in a post on X, he called on New Yorkers to treat officers with respect, but joked that if anyone's catching a snowball, it's me. Dan, like, it's super early in his administration, and oftentimes these sorts of narratives, once they're started, they crystallize in people's mind. This is not a good one for him to be up against his own police department.
Well, and it's even more than that, which is he is starting to now face criticism from his police commissioner. And when you think about who may step away and potentially challenge him, she is at the top of a lot of people's mind. And so she said, look, it's not okay that they attacked officers. He said, hey, kind of haha, it was a snowball fight. Go back to the 2 people who were killed by cops. Cops were, I think, using appropriate force in self-defense. His first reaction was, we're going to investigate the police. Her first reaction was, thank goodness for the police to come and protect people and do their job. Yeah. They are increasingly butting heads in public. And as you say, it's not just him, but it's the party. It is this narrative of law enforcement kind of, always having to investigate them, not be on their side. We talk about who's extreme and who's not. I think that story and what is brewing in New York with Mamdani has the potential to be more harmful than some of the stuff from the State of the Union last night.
Sean, quick word on that, and then we'll take questions.
Yeah, I'll just say this quickly. Like, first of all, if you go watch the video, Mamdani said in that presser that he held, he goes, it was just a snowball fight. Yeah. Go watch any of the B-roll. Those cops are being attacked and assaulted. And like, for him not to have their back, there's a couple areas of this. Number one, when you're in a city like New York, not to have the back of the NYPD, right, is a big deal, not just image-wise, but also those guys know how to turn their back and be like, okay, we couldn't respond in time. We couldn't, like, they'll make sure whether Jessica Tisch says it or not, like, they'll make their voices heard. Trust me on this. And I think that's a bad place for a mayor to be that early, where publicly the cops don't have your back in a place like NYPD. Big mistake. I think, to Dan's other point, if Republicans can seize this, and you think about the districts, right? So Nicole Malliotakis, Mike Lawler, Nick LaLota in the first, like, those guys starting to make that an issue that, like, we're for the cops, you're not, like, and turn this into, like, that's a big deal in those swing districts when you're talking about a very tight majority. So this is a big mistake by Mamdani, and to blow it off when you've got cops that were actually injured and went to the hospital and making it seem like, oh, kids just having fun. Yeah. Like, and everyone can watch it. This is Dan talked about this with ICE. Once it's on video, you can't deny it. And so this is his ICE. We're watching these cops get hit, get attacked. And he's saying it's just, a simple snowball fight. That's just, it defies logic.
Really fascinating dynamic here. So let's take some questions, guys. Okay, from X, giving some previous punishments that have happened to members of Congress that have shouted at the president during the State of the Union. What should and what could happen to Ilhan Omar for her repeated outbursts?
I don't think any. I mean, look, this has been going on. Go back to Joe Wilson yelling, "You lie." More and more people have. It's almost like the House of Commons style, where the opposition, there's shouts and grumblings, and I personally, I think Al Green is a different story. Totally inappropriate to have that sign. I get it, but he's becoming an embarrassment now.
Yep.
Did they censure him last year? I can't remember.
I believe they did.
Did they?
I believe they did.
Yeah. I mean, it almost gives them more oxygen than it's worth at this point. But no, I mean, like you had mentioned at the top that only a few people heckled. I mean, it sounds like from the reports, there was quite a bit of heckling.
At one point there was. Yeah.
I mean,
was. Yep. At one point.
Sean, do you think Republicans would censure her?
Here's the thing. I actually don't. This goes back to the clip that we paid up Major Garrett. And by the way, if you can get Major Garrett of CBS to point that out, that tells you, right? I mean, and Dan can't even look at the camera right now. He's so
sorry.
embarrassed.
Pick it up someone I dropped. That's right.
No. But I think that, look,
it,
punishing them would give them what they want. I actually think the contrast was great. I think this is exactly what the president wanted, which is beyond here's all the great things that I've done. These are the clowns that want to take charge, right? To me, having Ilhan Omar yell out and some of these other guys shows that if you're the president in the Republican Party, you want to say, maybe you don't entirely love us, but these guys are jokers. They are not serious. This is the kind of these are the kind of people that would be in charge. Don't vote for them. So I actually like the contrast, and I think punishing them is exactly what they'd want. It'd give them more attention. So I'll I don't like it as a viewer and as an American, but I also feel like
don't
it's
make
a nice
them a martyr.
Contrast.
Yeah,
right. It's a nice contrast.
Let's take another question. All right. Question. Jeffries ordered Democrats not to do anything during the State of the Union, and they ignored him. Are his days numbered as House leader?
No, I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I am curious if someone ultimately challenges him, but you got to have the votes. And I think right now he's secure-ish.
The other thing is, I'm not sure that he cares. See, I believe point like he needed as the leader of the party to be able to say, I told them not to do it. And then it's almost like sometimes like you knew they were going to do it anyway, but you want the cover, the CYA of saying, well, I told him not to. Yeah. I don't know that he particularly cares. I mean, if he really cared a lot more, he could have made it a lot sterner. I don't think he cared.
I think this is a dynamic to watch if and when Democrats flip the House, right? It shows that he does not have the juice with his members. And I have talked to Senate Democrats who have been very frustrated with Jeffries and a lot of the stances he has taken on like shutdown things. I mean, like countering Schumer when, Schumer has laid out a position in certain talks and then Jeffries does something else because his members on the left are demanding it. There is a sense amongst Democrats on the Hill that when he actually has to govern, this is going to be a real problem. So, I mean, 100%. I would watch this because he's no Pelosi. Let's be honest.
He's still auditioning for them. He still needs their support.
I think he'll get it. I mean, there's no way they pass up who would be the first Black speaker. No way.
But the problem, look, I think they're going to approve him because they know that he is afraid of them. So it's like we have him by the what, because if it's one of our own, then they're more comfortable. I just think his problem is going to be that he is not of the base, right? It is just a huge problem. They do not see him as one of their own.
But not only that, but to be leader, you have to tell the base no, and you have to get them to listen to you, and they will not.
That's my point.
So, yeah.
That's my point. Yep.
Let's take another question. Good question.
I don't trust them.
Really, really good questions. The DC Huddle question. Do you think Zoran will be pressured effectively from the left to defund NYPD and fire Jessica Trish?
No, I do not. I think Sean said this. Look, I even the most progressive people I know in this city still want to walk their dogs at night and not have to worry about being mugged or jumped. And there are enough people here who grew up in the 80s and 70s who remember this city when that was the case and the old ladies got knocked over, in the afternoon to steal their jewelry and their wallets, and people, didn't even bat an eyelid. No. Nope.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Let's take another one. Okay, question. Will the administration stop talking about election fraud now that it's been revealed that the Georgia election fraud involved Musk? I'm not sure what this is.
I don't know what that's
referring
about.
to.
Oh, do tell.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we have to
know.
do a little research for tomorrow. But I thought, by the way, I think the president last night, if you notice how he touched on it, he said something, he made a joke out of, well, I should have been here, but I wasn't for I mean, like he made it. I think he knows the audience. That's why I said yesterday going into the speech, he knew exactly what he needs to do and how. Like he didn't even want the media to be able to use that as a talking point, so he avoided it. And I think that was he ensured that wasn't going to be a talking point this morning for all the folks on the left. But I don't know the Musk piece.
Yeah, me either. Okay, let's take another one. Okay, question. Should Rep. Gonzalez resign? The notorious texts have surfaced, and the married woman he forced into sexual relationships set herself on fire. I'm sure Sean is going to say no, right, Sean?
Here's what I think should happen. And I'll admit the politics of this. Like if he resigns, there is no, I don't know Texas law, but remember in the Senate, you appoint, in the House, you have to have a special. So Abbott, I don't know how many days, usually state law dictates, you need X number of days for the primary and then for the general. So let's call it minimum, 60, 90 days. The House Republicans would have potentially a problem maintaining the majority. I think that Gonzalez should say right now, his primary's next week, right? That he is withdrawing from the race, allow the other person, and then we have to fight it out. But I think that even where it says the texts have surfaced, the merit, like the comments that he made as an employer are not defensible. And so for those reasons, I think he should withdraw. I mean, like he should have done this a while ago. But I do think that he needs to say, I'm not going to, because if he wins the primary, then we're really screwed.
I mean, without question, if they had a bigger majority, I think they would have already pushed him out by now, but that's not the case. Dan, I am wondering though, like if he comes out, as Sean says, and says, okay, look, I either lost the primary, I'm not going to run again or whatever. Do Democrats think twice about backing off this issue, or are they going to stay on this to make
stay on it?
squirm?
I said it yesterday.
Yeah,
they're going to say, and again, people can go ballistic when they hear this. Republicans are protecting Epstein. They're protecting Gonzalez. They're going to say it's another example of a man who basically is almost literally caught with his pants down, but nothing to see here.
All right, guys, let's take one more. Okay, question. Do you think there's a way to convince future presidents to shorten the time of their State of the Union by insisting that there be no constant stand and applause?
Oh, you can't have a show without the audience.
Right.
I do not think future presidents will look at that speech. I don't even think Trump will, and say 2 hours was a good thing. I just think there was too much going on.
Members were sleeping in the chamber.
How long do you guys think the average person watched watch the speech? You want to say 20 minutes, 30-ish?
Probably 45 to an hour.
I'd say 30 is going to be your average.
Hour?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just a dork, and I would, so.
Not us. The average regular person in Green Bay and
that's. I will notice that one thing that they have done, like the Trump team, they moved up a lot of the personal examples and like the showman stuff that in past speeches has been at the end of the speech. That's smart. Yeah, that's smart.
But remember, I said this at the beginning. The goal was to play the clock out. When did he finish? Exactly at 11 o'clock.
11, yeah.
He phased in, and then because he made local affiliates make a decision. Do we start our newscast? Do we take Abigail? I mean, because you knew there has to be a gap of about 10 minutes for the switch over to. I mean, this wasn't by accident. This was super staged. Perfect. I mean, it was brilliant. The way they used people, how they used them, when they used them, the timing, perfect. I mean, again, go back to
so you think 2 hours will become the norm?
No,
No,
I definitely
no,
don't.
no one else. I
That's
mean,
fine.
like,
Yeah.
Thank you.
but again, remember, just to be clear, Robert,
You
back
won't
in the
either.
day, they used to send this in a letter.
Yep.
And I will tell you, I said this jokingly last night. If Democrats flip the House, I would not be surprised if Trump says, I'm taking the State of the Union to,
Yep.
Independence Hall in Philadelphia. I'm taking it to Kansas. Like, there's no requirement to do it in the House of Representatives at all. It literally was a letter back in the day. The last thing if I can, Rachel, real quick, point of host privilege or something. In the chat, I want to be clear. Like, I hope people understand, because I'm seeing some of these comments about Gonzalez. I'm just explaining to you guys the raw politics of this. I'm not defending his action.
Guys, Sean's right on that.
No, I mean, like,
Yeah, you're right.
like people are like,
Gross. Whole
hey,
thing's
this
gross.
is yes.
Yes.
But when you have a 1 or 2 seat majority, that has to factor into whether, I mean, Rachel's right. If this was a 15 seat majority, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Johnson would have walked in and said, I am ordering you to either walk out or we put a vote on the floor today. But when you have a 1-2 seat majority, you have to figure that out, because President Trump says, if that guy resigns, I might get impeached right now. I will, I'll be I mean, those are factors and you can't deny it. And so I know some folks are saying, I can't believe I'm telling you how the system works. You may not like it, but it is what it is.
And by the way, this is dividing Republicans. I mean, we already have a number of Republicans on record who are saying he should go and resign now. And not only that, if you don't subscribe to my newsletter, you should sign up, RachelBade.com, personal plug there. But I fleshed out some of these dynamics in a column earlier this week with a lot of members super angry at Mike Johnson. And obviously he can't control his slim majority. But there's a huge contrast in how this has been handled in the past when they've had bigger majorities and what is being allowed to happen now. So it's ugly stuff. All right, guys, we are at time. We've got to leave it there. Sean, what are you going to be doing for your State of the Union, post State of the Union show?
Yeah. Senator Eric Schmidt of Missouri is going to join the show. We'll talk about his takeaways, what his reactions is. I'm going to put Dan's question to the test. What are they going to talk about today? What are they going to campaign on, and what's their message? So always appreciate his input.
Very good. And if you didn't catch the speech, you can read about it in my newsletter. I was up early this morning putting together. So hopefully that work, was for something. Go read it. Check it out. Okay. That's all we have for now. We will be back tomorrow at 8:30. Thanks everyone for joining us last night, and we'll see you tomorrow.